TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift's Malibu Moon, AP Indy's leading sire 7 years running. Best of luck to the connections of Grade 1 winners Gormley and Karina Mia in this year's Breeders' Cup.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Breeders' Cup alongside Joel Cunningham. I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, last weekend we really got through all the dirt divisions on the TCI Top 5. This week we're going to talk about the turf divisions. Man, we can't go through all of them, so we're going to focus on 3 today. Yeah. Let's start off with the mile. There's a lot of good horses. The Europeans always play a major factor in here. I'm interested to see who you put on the TCI Top 5.
Absolutely, John. The turf races, in my view, are the most intriguing Breeders' Cup races because of the international support. So let's look at the top 5 for the mile, John. And I've got my board of 10 horses here in terms of the contenders, and we'll go 5 through 1, in my view, a very good competitive mile group this year. I'm going to start with an American, and that is Winstar's Tourist in the 5 spot. Solid campaign, loved his race at Santa Anita earlier this year. I think he's a horse that has developed an off-the-pace sort of style, has been very consistent. He's lightly raced, should have something in the tank for later into the season. So he's a horse that, to me, deserves to be in the top 5, and the fact that he's already shown he could pop a 109 buyer at Santa Anita. I like his off-the-style presence in this race. In the 4 spot for me, another American, John. I'm going to go with Ironicus in here. Really loved his Shadwell last time out, off a layoff. I mean, if you just visually watch the way he finished that race, there was no pace in that race, and he came rolling from way back in that race. Should, second off the layoff, should run back to that performance, maybe even improve. He's a horse that's always had a ton of talent. It's crazy. He's not a Grade 1 winner, but to me, he might be the best American hopeful in this race from off the pace if he gets enough speed up front. Let's go to the 3 spot for me. I'm going to go for a European here, and you'll see that theme quite a bit today, where we're really siding with the Europeans. They dominate these races, particularly at Santa Anita. They've got, you wouldn't think, it's kind of counterintuitive, you would think over that shorter turf course that, maybe it would give them some problems, but the Europeans have actually done well at a lot of the Breeders' Cup races held at Santa Anita over that fast and firm short turf course. So Limato is a horse that likes a firm course, and he's in terrific form. I mean, he's running time form ratings up to 129. I mean, really fast, world-class type ratings. The question with him is, can he handle a 2-turn mile going around 2 left-hand turns? He's never quite been that far, certainly never been 2 turns, so it'll be interesting to see if he can do that, but he's very fast, and he's a horse that's certainly coming in this race as well as anybody, in my opinion, so he deserves that 3 spot. 2 spot for me is a horse that's going to be a long shot in here, and hey, he might not even get in, John. A horse, Letharnic. He's a Darley horse. He's one of, I think, 3 or 4 Darley horses in here. I know they have Dutch Connection that they have nominated for this race amongst some other horses, and he's way down the list. I mean, we're talking about he needs probably 7 defections or so to get into the mile field. However, that back class, I mean, you want to talk about talent, just raw talent and class. If you go back and look at that runner-up performance behind Glen Eagles last year in the St. James Palace, he's coming to this off of a huge layoff. He has 1 race under his belt this year, and it was a winning performance. So second off the layoff, they've obviously nominated him with the assumption he's doing very well. So Letharnic, if he gets in, I think he could be a contender in this race, second off the layoff. And I think number 1, very obvious, the American Tepin. I may have said Ironicus had the best shot. I may have misspoke there. Tepin, the defending champion here. She was defeated last time out by a filly that got loose on the lead. I think that was a freaky performance. I expect Tepin to take all the beating in here because I don't think it's the greatest group of Europeans coming over this year, John. So Tepin remains number 1 for me.
I'll tell you what, when I look at that list, I got to challenge you a little bit. I don't see Miss Temple City. It looks like you put a lot of weight to the Keeneland races. You see Ironicus and Taurus in there. Miss Temple City beat both of those horses last time out. I don't even see her on the list.
Yeah, Miss Temple City, certainly if the Breeders' Cup is at Keeneland like it was last year, I think Miss Temple City would be very prominent on this list. But the fact that she has not been as good away from Keeneland, now having to go to California, John, Males hasn't been the problem. It's been carrying her turf course with her. It's been the problem for me. She's just a different kind of filly at Keeneland. And I do think she capitalized on, again, a slower type pace last time out. She was up on it. So I think she would, if I had to put a number 6 spot, it'd be Miss Temple City. But the fact that it's at Santa Anita, she's got to go on the road. She doesn't make the list for me.
All right, let's move to the next TCI top 5 then. Let's talk about the filly and Mare Turf. There's a lot of good storylines in here. I'm interested to see who you put in at number 1.
Well, first of all, you have to figure out the Coolmore puzzle, to figure out this filly and Mare Turf, and the turf for that matter, because they have so many horses cross-centered in places like the turf, the mile, that are filly and Mare Turf contenders. I can think of Alice Springs. I can think of Seventh Heaven, a bunch of other horses here. And I have 10 horses here that we're going to pull our top 5 from. Pretty Perfect was the other horse I was telling you about, John, that is a Coolmore horse that I think is going to factor into this race. She doesn't make my top 5, but she'll have a factor, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's start in the 5 spot. Queen's Trust for me is a very interesting Sir Michael Stout 3-year-old filly. I really visually liked her performance. She doesn't have the greatest turn of foot of the Europeans, and she's sort of been a bridesmaid quite a bit in some very good Group 1 races this year in Europe, but she's very lightly raced. Sir Michael Stout bringing her over here, obviously has a great Breeders' Cup record. To me, she has all the upside. This is her trip, 1.25 miles, coming from just off the pace. I think this is a filly that is a big-time outsider in here. When I look at the, how they're gambling on this filly overseas, which, you want to trust certainly their analysis on European form. She's a 3rd choice in this race right now behind Lady Eli and 7th Heaven. So Queen's Trust, I think, is a very live long shot in here. I'm going to put in that 5 spot. For me at number 4, I'm going to go with the local horse that has a European form, and that's C. Khaleesi. Now, she's a deep closer. If this were a 1.5 mile race, I'd probably have her in the top 3 because she loves 1.5 miles. I'm not so sure that she can get up going 1.25 miles, but she has a monster turn of foot. Chad Brown, certainly trust him coming to Santa Anita with this filly. And I do think she'll get some pace, and we'll talk about the pace in a second. Let's go to the number 3 horse now. And I'm going to go with Coolmore's Alice Springs in here. I think they're leaning towards running this filly in the mile because of what I said earlier. It's not the greatest group of milers this year behind Tepin. Particularly if you don't respect the Americans. The Europeans don't look as scary this year as a whole. So I think Coolmore may run her in the mile. However, I think 10 furlongs would not be a problem for this filly. Certainly she loves North American racing. We saw her almost run down Catch a Glimpse last year as a 2-year-old in the Breeders' Cup. She can handle the left-hand turn. She's been ultra consistent all year in a true Group 1 type filly. So I think she belongs in the top 3 if they decide to run here. And for me, let's go with Coolmore 7th Heaven in the 2 spot. And again, I have her in there, John, because she's a bona fide 1.25 mile type filly. Probably actually prefers 1.5 miles. She comes from way out of it. She's going to like the firm ground in here. They love her class. But to me, she's going to need the pace. And that's why I think Pretty Perfect for Coolmore is going to be the pace setter in here for her to assure a fast pace to try to set her up her late turn of foot. They also have Pretty Perfect cross-centered in the turf. I don't think they're going to wind up going in the turf with her. I think they need the pace in this race. So expect her to set a fast pace, 7th Heaven with that turn of foot. But still, when I go to number 1, I'm going to have to go with Lady Eli, 3rd off the layoff. I mean, how can you go against this filly? She's done nothing wrong at all. Certainly 10 furlongs. Both of her performances at that distance have been terrific performances, in my opinion. I really liked her win last time out, running down a loose Centuria Italia, who I think is another very good filly. If I had a 6 spot here, I'd probably have Centuria Italia in the 6 spot because I think she's a pretty solid filly as well. So Lady Eli coming in the right way for Chad Brown. She deserves the number 1 spot for me with her tactical speed.
All right, once again, I see a horse on there that won her last time out. That's Photo Call. Beat Tepin in that race. Still didn't get on the TCI top 5. But one thing I want to say here, I like this. You always say the Europeans dominate these races, but man, when I look through here, last 2 horses, those are both American horses you got in number 1s.
That's absolutely true. And you know what? If this race was 1.5 miles, I'd probably have 7th Heaven at number 1. That's at 1.25 miles. I think it's a little shorter, and she's going to come from way out of it, John. I mean, Lady Eli's going to have such a tactical edge over her. You mentioned Photo Call. What race will she go in, the mile or the filly Mare Turf? Because certainly she would inject speed in the filly Mare Turf. You put her in here with Pretty Perfect, and I start liking horses like Queen's Trust more. I start liking horses like 7th Heaven, and even C. Khaleesi, those deep, deep closers in here. So the pace is what's going to be the key in here. Pretty Perfect can only set a fast enough pace if you respect her, and she's the only one out there. She'll need a horse, like you mentioned, Photo Call, maybe going with her to really set up a dueling pace to set it up for these closers.
All right, well, let's talk about one more before we go, and of course, that's the turf. This is very interesting in here because there's some horses that might not even run in here. There's some horses like Flintshire, who you would have thought, man, this horse is going into heavy favorite. He loses last time out. I'm interested to see what you do here.
Well, you know what? You mentioned something about in terms of the horses I like on top. Again, let's go to the European wagering right now and see who they like over there, and that'll give you an indication of what they think about their European hopefuls and their chances in the races this year. Tepin is the favorite, slight favorite over Limato right now, with Alice Springs the 3rd choice in the mile. Filly and Mare Turf, I mentioned 7th Heaven's the 2nd choice behind Lady Eli, so they respect Lady Eli. And Queen's Trust, as I said, is the 3rd trust in there with Alice Springs and C. Khaleesi behind her. But when I look at the turf race, I found it very interesting that the Europeans are betting on Flintshire, John. The Europeans have him on top right now over Highland Real. Found third, and then Erupt. Now, Found's interesting because I think the reason she's third in the wagering is probably figure that they're going to run her on the dirt, obviously. So, but the fact that Highland Real, who beat Flincher in Hong Kong a year ago, almost a year ago, fair and square, if you go back and watch that race on YouTube, that was fair and square. Very interesting that the Europeans have Flintshire over him. But let's go to our top 5 here and see who we like. I mentioned Erupt. He's a horse that's taken a lot of action. A very good Canadian International winner last time out. I like the way he won. So I'm going to go with Erupt here in the 5 spot. Coming back again, has a lot of European form. And I like the fact that he was able to win around left-hand turns in North America and handle firm ground. Coming back, I think he's very live in this race. Going in the 4 spot here, let's go with 7 Heaven. And I'm going with 7 Heaven, John, just because she's nominated for this and she loves a 1.5 miles. And she's obviously proven that she can beat Found at a 1.5 miles. So you have to have her in the top 4 here. If she were to get the pace and they were to run her in here, I don't think they will. I think she ranks as a top 4 contender. In the 3 spot for me, John, let's go with Flincher. I know he's number 1 in the wagering right now in Europe, but Flincher for me, you know, again, he's going to have to rebound in this race. I thought he had an excuse last time out by an Ecto on that boggy turf course. Certainly he rates as a top contender in here, but again, I'll go back to some of these Coolmore horses and their record in this race, particularly at Santa Anita, and it's hard for me to really look past their best in here. So at number 2, I'm going to have Found in here. Again, I know she's probably going to run the Classic, John, but for now, she's cross-entered as a defending winner in this race. We saw her beat Golden Horn, so I certainly have to respect her form, even though she's run a lot this month already. To me, at a 1.5 miles on firm ground, she belongs to that 2 spot. And for me, I like Coolmore's most likely entrant in the race. I think could be maybe the best horse in the race because of his tactical speed, and that's Highland Real. And again, I look back at that race at Hong Kong last year. Go back and watch it. He is fair and square on even terms behind a very moderate pace, kicking for home. Flincher was the favorite over him that day. Highland Real won and showed a much more dynamic turn of foot that day. He's gotten better with age. I think there's one point in his career where he won the Secretariat Stakes last year as a 3-year-old at Arlington, where they didn't think maybe he was a cut below their best for Coolmore. They even sent him to Australia, but towards the end of the year, he got good when he won at Hong Kong, and certainly he's had a great campaign this year, a Group 1 winner. His second in the ARC last time out was a very good performance. He has tactical speed. That's why I don't think you're going to see the pace setter pretty perfect in this race. I think the tactical speed is huge on that firm turf course. He's going to get the jump on a horse like Flincher, in my opinion, and that's the difference. That's why Highland Real is the number 1 for me.
All right, I appreciate it, man. There's a lot of information there. Come on back over. We got the top 5s are done, man. You know, it's been a lot of horses to go over. I know it's different to jump in there and kind of look. I like that you dug up that European data there to kind of see what they're thinking about the horses. I'll tell you this about Found. You mentioned it a little bit. This filly's run a lot and against really top competition. If she comes over here, runs in the Classic, and beats a horse like California Chrome, man, that's really saying something.
It really is, and she's a hardy filly. I mean, you listen to Aidan O'Brien talk about her, and he talks as if she's one of the best horses he's ever trained. I mean, just super genuine, super honest, super hardy. Gives her best every time. She's run second quite a bit in her career. And she's one of these Coolmore horses, John, that I think they like her so much they're taking a shot. We've seen this before at Glen Eagles. We've even seen it with that great sire Galileo and a lot of these Montjou, a lot of these horses, they've tried to win on the dirt as their best. Yep. The only one that's really had an impact, well, Declaration of War certainly ran well, but he has a good North American type pedigree, Warfront, the Union Rags family, and then, you know, certainly Giants Causeway almost beating Tisnow. What was that, in 2000? Again, Stormcat out of American, you know, Mariah Storm Rahi. So a lot of dirt pedigree there, but when I look at Found and all these other horses, nothing but deep turf pedigrees. I really question her form over a tight track like Santa Anita, which her hooves are going to rattle. I like the move. It's a sporting move, but it's hard for me to back Found in the Classic.
I'll tell you what, I look forward to next week where we can get our picks and see who we think is going to win all these great Breeders' Cup races. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. Make sure you come back next week. We'll give you all our picks for this year's Breeders' Cup.